Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games, back with another cool arcade game repair video for you today. If you haven't been watching, we've been working on this super cool, look, there's Joe, this super cool Atari pole position arcade game, and the thing ain't working. It's broke. We'll ask Joe when he comes in what's wrong with it. He'll tell us it's broke. So we did one video where we worked on the power supplies. Talked about that a little bit. We did the sense mods, which some people are for, some people are against. And then we did a second video where we worked through some of the battery corrosion on the board, worked on some of those issues. And at the end of the second video, we got the thing to come up into the test menu. See how it just kind of reset? And this was what we ended up getting. So the thing will reset. It's doing a bunch of funky stuff. It just said RAM 1. That may be a kind of a clue. But we're basically going to work through working on the PCB in this video. So if you've got one that's acting up, maybe this will help you with yours. I will tell you, though, that this is a tricky board to fix. These often have problems. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to check to make sure that we've got good power all through the board. And then we'll see from there. Joe, we were waiting on you. What was wrong with this game again?
It was broke.
It's broke. Okay. So we're gonna check to make sure that the power is all right. We already worked on the power supplies, checked everything out, and the power is getting to the board. But I'd like to see if it's getting all over the board, like if the power is the same on both ends of the board. So you'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute on that. Boy, it's trying, isn't it? You see how it's trying, people? It's almost there. It's just not quite resetting. It's going to be something in like the reset sequence or something, but we'll figure it out. So let me pull the board out and lay it where we can get to it and test it with the power on, and we'll start there. So the first thing I want to do is I want to test the theory that the voltage is good on this end of the board but not on this end of the board. Because some people, they will take wires and like jumper from one end of the board to the other. And then in the previous video, whenever we were looking at it, I didn't see where that would really be necessary because it actually does a pretty good job of distributing the 5 and the ground all throughout the board. On the top, it goes from one side to the other. There's plenty of little ground rails. And then on the bottom, there's also ground rails and 5-volt rails and all of that. So I think that that's probably not the issue. So if you didn't watch the previous video, what are you doing? You're right in the middle of something. If you didn't watch the previous video, basically on these, the edge connectors burn up. And they had on this, we repaired it, but then we also put jumpers on it to jumper the voltage directly to the board onto the test points, which is a common way that people improve the kind of shoddy power distribution on these, right? So we're going to turn it on. You can hear that juice come up in it. And then we're going to check the voltage on this end and on this end. Another thing I want to check is see if we have defeated our ability to adjust the power by doing the sense mod. So if you don't know about the sense mod, basically the power supply is sent out 5 volts and then there's a sense wire that goes back to the power supply to tell it if the 5 volts is on the board. If it's low, it turns up the voltage and it causes all kinds of issues. Now, if everything's perfectly clean, it's a good setup. But what we're trying to do, we did make everything as clean as we can, the connections and stuff. But what we're trying to do is defeat that so that it doesn't automatically adjust, so that you have to adjust it by hand. So I'm going to check to see if by doing that, if we made it where you can no longer adjust the 5, which we want to be able to do that manually. We're just testing things out here, people. So let's check some voltages. Now last night I thought that we had about what was it? What voltage did we have last night? I thought it was right at 5, not quite 5 on the board, 4.98, something like that. Let me see if I can get everything ready here. This is one of the reasons our videos go so long. I talk a lot, and then we have to get everything ready too. Okay, so I've got one of the ground lug down there. Let's see if we've just got the same 5. So I'm on the connector coming in. We've got 5.01. If I come down here to a rail, I can find one. got 5.0. Next one, kind of hard to track down which one's which. 5.0. Next one, 4.99. Next one, 4.99. Next one, 4.99. How y'all doing today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Doing good, doing good. Next one, 4.99. Next one, 4.99, and then all the way down here at the end of the board. Well, that was at the end of the board. 4.99. So, you know, we didn't add any jumpers, but I've got within 1/100th of the volt from that end to that end. So it's not a problem, I don't think. Let me turn it over and we'll check the other side just to make sure. I think I'll try turning up the, well, we're right at 5. I like it like that. A lot of times I'll turn it up a little higher than 5 just to make sure you get 5 on the board. But I don't know that that's necessary if we've got 4.99 all over the board. Let me flip it over and we'll check the video board just to make sure it's the same. So this is the video board. You saw us work on it before. Let's do the same. So if I measure on the actual connector, 4.97. Okay. And then let's measure on the actual board. 4.96. That's on the first row. 4.96. We'll just work right down the rows. 4.96. 4.96. Same. 4.95. 4.95. 4.95. .95, 4.95, 4.95, 4.95. Okay, now, and I'm going to measure like right in the middle of the board just to make sure. 4.95, 4.95, 4.95. Okay, and I'm going to see if I can turn it up just slightly. So there's a little screw on the AR2 that you can turn. So I'm going to see if I can turn this one up just a little tiny bit, get it just a little bit higher, a little closer to 5. But that's going to take 2 hands to do. Be right back. Okay, so I was able to turn it up easily, and I've got exactly 5 volts on the board now. And the other one had 4.99 or whatever it was. So just the way I'm testing, I don't think that you need jumper wires from one end of the board to the other because of just how well laid out the power rails are on the board. I think the edge connector is definitely a problem, and so putting the extra wires onto the test point is definitely a good thing. But putting jumpers from this side to this side, I don't think accomplishes anything. I don't think you need it because the traces run all the way around the edge, and then they go from like a ladder from side to side, and then they also do it on the bottom. So I just don't think that it's necessary to add extra wires. It's got plenty of them already. Okay, but we're still not booting, so we're going to have to break out the logic probe and figure out what's going on with that. But let's check out the schematics first and see if we can get an idea of how the thing even works. So folks, we actually have the schematics. Schematic package supplement to pole position. If you don't actually have the paper ones, you can get them online for free. They're on KLOV, the Killer List of Video Games, for instance. They're on a bunch of places. Okay, so we're going to just flip through them and see if we can get a little bit of an understanding of how the game works. We talked about this in the last one. There are 2 power supplies that provide 5 volts and only 5 volts to one power supply for the CPU board and 1 power supply for the video board. And there's no other voltages on the CPU or the video board necessary. They may create some on the board, but I don't know about that. And the reason that it only needs 5 volts is because it does audio processing, but it sends it off the board back over to the power supply to be amplified. So, you know, the little amps on the power supply boards, that's why they call it the regulator audio power supply, right? Or as we affectionately call it, the AR2. So because of that, it only needs 5 volts on the board. So we just check that. If you've got problems with one, that's the first thing you want to check. Also, the regulation of the 5 volts is done in the bottom of the cabinet with Atari's famous big blue capacitor. Those caps, now they're 40 years old, so they start allowing AC to get through on the DC line. You probably, if you're having problems, you probably should replace that. You can test them and just see if you have a lot of AC ripple on the DC line. If you do, it's that cap. It filters it. On this game, there's 2 of them, actually. But once you have that replaced, it's usually not a problem. So both of them have been replaced in our game. The 5 volts is nice and solid. You just saw it all over the board. We've got nice, good connections on the edge of the board. So our power, we're pretty confident, knock on particle board, is solid. So I believe that's fine. So that's basically the power setup. We need to look at what actually makes the board boot. This is the wiring diagram for the sit down. We do not have the sit down. This is the wiring diagram for the EMI shield. As you can see, there's not much. They had a bunch of capacitors on it, but we don't have that anymore, so we don't even need that. Okay, and then the N board is the interconnect board. It looks like it moves some things around back and forth, but we've got that. I wonder if I've got it on backwards. Looks like you can't. It looks like every other connection just moves one position. So 60 goes to 59, 59 goes to 60, 58 goes to 57, blah, 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 blah. And if you were to put it on backwards, it would be set up the exact same way. So that's the little N board that connects the 2 boards together. Okay. The coin option interconnect board. Okay, not sure about that. That's not a problem. Okay, the utility panel, that's the one on the in the coin door with the volume controls, the test switch, the coin switches, or I guess that's the credit switch, the coin counters. Oh, that is the coin switch. There's the coin door wiring diagram. None of this is important to what we're doing. Here's the steering coupler. If you didn't watch the previous video, we did get it into test for just a little while, and we were able to test all the controls worked, all the sounds even worked. We heard all the sounds, but when you take it out of test and try to go into the gameplay, it doesn't work. Fluorescent light. There's the power supplies. Once again, all of that is just fine, or appears to be. Okay, check this out. You're going to love this. You're going to love this. Memory map, CPU 1 and 2. Memory map, CPU 3. So this is a very complex game. It's just got a lot of stuff going on. So at the time, they hadn't really done anything like this before. It ends up being a big board with lots of custom chips. And I guess it has 3 CPUs. So we'll have to check that out. Schematic reference. Might have to come back to that. Pole position CPU PCB. So there's one PCB that's the CPU and there's one that's the video. Now since when it resets, you see it's not like the video is coming in and out. What happens is you see whenever the board boots up, there's like a crosshatch, and then it shows a bunch of like jumbled, I don't know what order it's in, but it also shows a bunch of like jumbled things on the screen, which are, it looks like some kind of character ROM test or something like that. Sometimes it will say RAM OK, ROM OK, and then it kind of resets, etc. So after it does that, it does it again. So would that be a video board problem? Probably not, because it wouldn't be repeating. If you had a video board problem, I'm assuming, maybe wrong, unless there's some kind of feedback circuit or something. Basically, you're going to have problems where the thing comes up, but it just doesn't look right. So the car is screwed up. There's lines all over the screen. One whole color is gone. All of the billboards are pictures of Mario, something like that, right? So I don't think it's a video board problem. We're having some kind of problem with the actual CPU side of it that runs things. So I think the problem will be on the CPU board. Once we figure that problem out, there very well may be problems on the video board, right? So I'm just trying to think through out loud what is likely to be the issue and how we can fix it. So hopefully this will help you if you're running into the same problem. Okay, so this is PCB schematic diagram. This is the edge connector, just showing you where everything comes in. These would be the signals that pass through the interconnect. See how it says 60? There's a 60 pin connector over to the video board. So it's sending the clock signal, the horizontal reset, vertical reset, things like that, right? Okay. Address lines, data bus lines, and then a whole bunch of grounds. The CPU, PCB power input, okay? We ran into a problem with our CR2 on the last one. We got that good. RAM battery backup power. So this is the problem. They installed this battery on the board and it leaks all over the place. It screws a lot of this stuff up. But we cleaned that up pretty well. Our issue ultimately may be because of this battery, though. It may be that I didn't get it cleaned up. And remember, there was this one chip right there beside it that I was saying, I wonder if I'm going to have to replace that or not. I cleaned it up best I could, and I didn't replace it. That very well may end up being the problem, especially since it's an intermediate thing. It works and it doesn't work, but it never boots all the way up. But the way it resets and things like that could be battery damage. All right. Boy, we're moving right through it. Look, we're already through all those schematics. And we're confident it's not on any of those pages. Basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out where it's going to be. Like, what do I need to look at? Okay. CPU PCB schematic design. Microprocessor A is Z8002. Now, we're going to have to look into that too. I think that may actually be different than just a traditional Z80, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so there should be like a reset line somewhere. Yeah. So there's a reset line to reset the Z80. We have a clock input. We need to test all that kind of stuff just to make sure we've got it. This is like an interrupt, I think. But this should be testable as well because, well... Basically, anytime you get a chip that its signal comes just from, like, voltage, it's easy to test that because it ought to be doing something all the time if it's just getting its signal from voltage. It is getting a signal, though, from a couple other places, but we'll be able to figure that out. All right, so basically, we want to check this clock line and this reset line and see if we're getting activity out of it, right? And that will tell us if microprocessor A is doing its thing. So after it does that, you have some buffers here. There is a ROM, a PAL chip, which is like a small ROM with just a little bit of information in it that it uses to do decoding and stuff like that, usually, I think. And then we have 4 ROM chips here with program code in them. Right. Sometimes on the schematics it will show 4 ROMs, but they ended up using 2 bigger ones or something like that. And then we run into our customs. So we have a custom at 3F and a custom at 4F. See how it says 10, custom 10? All of these custom chips, these are Namco created custom chips. All of these custom chips will have 4 numbers on them, and it'll say like 1018, and then another one might say 1025. The first two numbers are the only ones that are significant. I'll show you on the board here whenever we start working on it, but I'm just trying to track down what we need to check out. So we definitely need to look at this and see if we see anything, if this is even booting up, right? And then here is microprocessor B. Also a Z8002, whatever that is. We're going to check that out. But you have the same reset line and the same clock line, or I guess they're different ones actually, but I mean, you have to look at the same type of thing. So this is very similar. There's a different PAL chip, small ROM, and then you have 4 other program ROMs, and then you have 2 more custom chips. Right? Crazy. So we will definitely be looking at that. Okay, and then there is a sound microprocessor, which must have been working fine because in the test menu we were getting all of that stuff. So it's just a more regular Z80. Clock signal here, reset signal here. All right. Now, for us to run the program, though, to test the sound, surely one of the other microprocessors was working too. So I think what we may be getting is, since we do come up in test mode sometimes, one of these processors is probably working, and that one has enough, is just happens to be the one that runs the test program, the sound test and the RAM test, the ROM test. Maybe the other processor isn't working. So maybe we've got one working and one that isn't. Okay. So the sound test, I don't think we need to mess with this the sound processor, since, you know, we tested all that whenever the thing came up. Sound memory. So the 2 RAM chips, 2149s. Sound and in-out address decoders. CPU PCB sync chain. Interesting. SB clock, maybe that means soundboard clock, right? CPU PCB schematic diagram, sound buffers, and multiplexer. The brake and gas pedal input. Whenever we went into test mode, that worked. Option switch input and in-out interface. Miscellaneous sound generators. Speech processor and memory. Engine sound generator. Look, all of that just for the engine sound. Wow. And then the sound outputs. And then we were onto the video PCB. Okay, so putting this back, the battery is contained on the CPU board. That is where we had the alkaline damage. And the game is never booting completely, which would be a CPU thing in my professional opinion. Well, I said professional sarcastically. In my unprofessional opinion. All right, so I think our problem is likely to be on this microprocessor A sheet or this microprocessor B sheet. Now, the reset line comes from reset B and reset A. Okay? We need to find where those come from. I think that likely is the first thing we need to look at. Like, where are those reset lines coming from? Let me see if I can find them here anywhere. And that will kind of be the very beginning of what we're trying to get done here. Kind of neat working on one of these. For years we shied away from them because they're just so complex. I've got so much going on, but you know what? I think we've gotten to the point now. Since we know that the power thing can be fixed. Where are my reset lines coming from? Since we know that the power thing can be fixed, I'm not quite as afraid of them anymore. Okay, let me get the phone. Okay, so I found it here. It's in the sound and in-out address decoders. So this chip is getting information from signals coming from the sound board, the sound microprocessor, to this 259, and that's what creates the reset A and reset B. So it appears that what happens is, the first thing that happens is the sound microprocessor works, the Z80, okay? It is reset by, a voltage, just a counter built into the board that just runs off of voltage. So when the game comes on, the Z80 is reset by this little reset circuit. It starts doing the sound stuff, creates this one custom chip here, comes up with some SD037 signals. Well, these are SA. Let's see, where does SA come from? We're looking it up. We're figuring it out. I don't know where the SA comes from. It appears to me that basically the sound microprocessor is controlling the in-out, which it is what turns on the other two resets, which turns on the other two microprocessors. So I'll bet what's going on is it's turning on one of them, but the other one's not getting turned on. So it's probably turning on the one that is able to do or we may even try playing around with removing a couple of the processors. What if we remove, just for giggles, microprocessor A and B, and then try to boot the board and see if it will come up in the test menu even without those microprocessors? Maybe that'll help us understand a little better how the whole system works, right? I'm sure some of you can tell just by that memory map, but I cannot read these memory maps and understand them. I have never been able to figure that out. Let me find it here. So it looks like this one turns on first. CPU 1 and 2. So 1 and 2, program memory, motion object memory, vertical and horizontal position, character color, vertical size, road memory, alphanumeric memory, horizontal position, road vertical position. So the alphanumeric in the test menu, I mean, you get all of that. Oh, this one has it as well. Okay, CPU 3, so I think this is the sound one, which is the Z80. Program memory, the battery backup, RAM, motion object, vertical and horizontal position, motion object, road memory. Yeah, see, I just don't understand all of this. It does seem to be doing the sound, though. So it looks like the Z80 comes on first, and then it turns on the Z80 02s, whatever in the world that is. So we're going to have to look at that first. But I think I might remove those and see if we can still get in the test without either one of those, and that'll help us maybe, or help me maybe understand a little better how it works. So let's go back to the board. So here we are back at the CPU. Here's the Z80. This is the one that they're calling the sound one. This is microprocessor 3. There's also a Z80 02 here. I don't know what the I'm not familiar with those at all, so I don't know what that's actually called. And then whenever I go to this one, it's in backwards. That very well could be our entire problem. But I've probably fried it by having it in backwards. Now, did I do that, or did the person before me do that? We'll have to go look at the tape. We're going to have to run the tape on this one, people. Let's go see if I'm the one or they're the one. We'll check that out here in a minute. So the one at, well, if I can get the freaking thing out. The one at 3A is backwards. I took all these chips out and cleaned them and put them back in. So did I put it back in the way I took it out, or did I put it back in backwards? I mean, clearly I put it backwards, but was it already backwards? That's the question, right? So the one at 3A, we need to review the tape on that one. All right. But here's what I want to do. I'm going to turn it on like I talked about with just the Z80 in it and see if it'll do the test mode like we were doing last night whenever we were working on it. Just because I'm trying to help wrap my mind around how these things work, because I want to be able to fix these long term, work on them again down the road. Okay, so let's put it in test mode and see if it will come up. It doesn't appear that it will. Okay, so let me put the one back in. I'll leave out the one that I had backwards and put the other one in and see if that will allow us to go into test mode. So this is more like what it was doing last night. It would come up, blue screen, and if you let it sit just long enough, it would go into test mode. We have it set on test mode. It will go into test mode without the 3A microprocessor. Okay, let's see if the sound works. Interesting. Okay, now we have to go review the tape and see if the 3A was backwards before me or if I did it. Well, people, as you can see, it originally was in there the right way, and then it ended up in there the wrong way, and the only person that touched it was me. So whenever I cleaned the chips, I put one of the freaking processors in backwards. I wonder if I did any of the custom chips like that. It doesn't look like it. I'm usually pretty good with that, but not this time. Okay, so it probably fried that chip, but I have turned it around and put it in the right way, and we'll see if it works or if we get any farther with that in there. Luckily, I have a parts board, so I've got some of those chips, and I'll order some if this fixes it. I have no clue what those chips are, so I'm going to go look it up too. But for now, we're going to turn it on and see what kind of result we get. See if it gets into test mode quicker. Before, you had to wait to go into test mode. Now it's failing ROM 7. I wonder if that's because it's testing ROMs with that CPU that it wasn't testing before. If you look at when we were doing the test just a minute ago, it was saying RAM and ROM pass. So I wonder if turning that chip back around, it can now do more testing, or if with the chip turned around, since the chip's screwed up, it can't do it. Okay, I'm going to go get another one off of another board and slide it in there and see if we get a different result. Okay, so I found another one on a parts board, and I looked it up. It has nothing to do with the Z80, so it's kind of like the Intel 8080. That's completely different than the Z80. So this is the 8002, I guess. I don't know how they pronounce it. Maybe they pronounce it 8002, but the Z8002. Okay, so I've swapped in another one. Let's see if we get that same ROM error. It was telling us ROM 7, or let's see if it goes into test. Same thing. Okay, well that's actually good, because that could mean that our other Z8002 isn't fried. Maybe it. So maybe the RAM and ROM test can't return a problem with that one if the microprocessor's in backwards. All right, so let's see which ROM is ROM 7. So in the manual they have this little table. ROM number 7, we're on the Atari CPU PCB, would be number 4E. Okay, so I wonder if that's anywhere near the corrosion area. we still have our eye on that corrosion we fixed. That may have not fixed anything, but we'll see. So 4E, let's go track that down. Okay, so it's getting a little more clear. So this, we had this in backwards and it didn't fail. This is the chip. I had it in backwards and it didn't fail. I think what was going on was it wasn't even testing any of this. So here's the other one. I think it was testing that, and it was testing these with the Z80, but I think with this gone or backwards, it won't even test any of these. So once we got this up, it finally could test them, and this one failed. So I have another parts board on the desk back there. I just swapped the chip out. Now you could just burn another one, which we probably will whenever we fix that one, right? And it now has us back up in test, and everything's cool. Okay, so just to check it one more time, I'm going to turn it off and then right back on, and just make sure that it passes that again. Make sure our thinking's right. Yep. See what I'm talking about? You always got to check, people. So it's failing again. So that's going to be a bad connection. The socket's bad to it, or the socket's bad to the CPU, or a bad trace, something like that. But just for giggles, I'm going to go ahead and try to put it into gameplay mode. We're still in test mode. Let's see if we put it in gameplay mode, if it tries to boot up or if it fails that same ROM. Yeah, it's doing the same thing. So it must do that when it tries to boot the game. All right, so I'm going to take the board back out. We'll take it to the back room and see if we can figure it out. That the other ROM must be fine too, so I'll put it back in the parts board for whenever we fix it. So I took the board in the back and I ohmed out the socket. So what you can do is, if you look on the schematics, I checked every connection going to this chip, from the two buffers, this PAL chip, and the address and data lines on the, well, they go to the buffers really. Couldn't find anything wrong with it. So I tried another chip. Right? Also the same with this. Remember how I was saying when we were looking at the schematics that a lot of times when they show like 4 ROMs, there's not really 4, there's just 2 bigger ones? Well, that's what they did. These are just alternate locations. So all of these positions, like this pin here, is the same as that. They're connected. And this one is the same as that. Almost all of them are connected. So you can check to see if the socket is any good by measuring the resistance from each pin to the pin on the socket that's not there. And if they're very low resistance, you know, it should be a dead short. But if it's very, very low resistance, your socket's fine. That's not the problem. So I did that. Everything ohmed out fine. Everything ohmed out fine on this one. So I swapped the chip, right? And so it came right up without the ROM 7 error. But we're going to try turning it off and back on again just to make sure, like we did before. It could just be that we had a questionable chip. Let's see if it always comes up ROM okay, or if we get... it did it again. Amazing. So did I burn up 3 of those chips? That can't be. That can't be, people. Okay, so I went ahead and swapped that socket. Whenever you look in that socket, it didn't look that great. It had a little bit of, it wasn't really corrosion, it was more like oxidation. But remember, it is right here by where the battery leaks. So I went ahead and swapped that socket and then turned it on, and it came right up in test menu. Everything looks cool. But let's try what we tried before. Let's make sure it's going to stay. Let's make sure that we don't keep getting that ROM 7 error that has plagued us. So let's make sure that we fixed it. Whenever something's temperamental like this, sometimes it'll, you know, work for a bit and then not work for a bit. I like to know that it's reliable, you know. Okay, so that's twice it came up. Okay. So I'm gonna try it one more time just to make sure. Hopefully that proves that we fixed whatever the ROM 7 problem was. Oh, and I put the one of the ones back in it. Okay, so every time it's booting. Okay, next step, humor me, people. I'm gonna try to put the one back in that I had in backwards to see if I fried it or if it's still working. Okay, so that's the one I had in backwards, and it did come up in test mode. Passed the RAM and ROM test. So you know what time it is now, people. We're going to flip the switch and see if it will even attempt to start the game. Let's see if we get anywhere. Come on, baby. Holy crap. Wow, we might have done it. Holy moly. I think we fixed it. You see anything glitched or anything? These are super complex, like I said, so the signs are done a certain way. The background, those mountains can be messed up. The other cars can be messed up. You can get problems where the road's the wrong color. But wow, I think everything's right. It's amazing. Well, we fixed the pole position. Pretty impressive. I'm quite proud of myself. We don't do that too often. Now, remember, we haven't rebuilt the monitor yet or anything, so we still got that to do. But I think the freaking thing might actually be working. All right, so we'll play a quick game, and then we'll see. All right, we're going to play it real quick to do the final test, you know. Now, people, you're right in the way. Is the road the wrong color, or did I just have it turned down too low? I haven't played it in a while. Maybe I can turn the brightness up slightly. I don't remember how it looks. I also don't remember how to turn the brightness up on a Matsushita. Hello, brightness knob. I might turn on the lights for a second, people. Brightness knob, where are you? Can't see a thing. Enjoy the track mode. Tell me if it resets. That looks like a focus. Vertical size, vertical hold. Brightness. I see it, people. It's just a matter of time now. I don't know. We're going to have to tinker with that a little bit. Like I said, we haven't rebuilt the monitor yet. But I think that might be more like how it's supposed to be, isn't it? Still maybe a little bit green. Okay. I noticed something a second ago on the main screen. It almost looked like there was like a little outline that shouldn't be there at the bottom. On the title screen. What a cool game. Look at it. Oh no, I can see it now. It's just dirt. It's just dirt, people. The little lines there, that's just dirt. All right, we're going to test it now. If you enjoy our channel, people, if this stuff is interesting to you, I wonder if I can get the focus any better. If this stuff is interesting to you, make sure to subscribe to us. But you know how you can help us? Well, we have a website. Go check it out. Go to lionsarcade.com. And you can see all the games that we have for sale right now on there. We also have a parts page where we have links to some of the things that we use whenever we do our repairs. You can check that out as well. And if you buy anything on our parts page, some of those links take you to Amazon. If you click one of those links and go to Amazon, let's say you're going to buy something else on Amazon. Let me tell you what somebody did earlier. I don't know if it was the same person, but earlier today, somebody bought like a GPS system on Amazon, and they used our link. And whenever they did it, now we don't advertise a GPS system. No, they clicked one of our links for a screwdriver or something. And then whenever they got to Amazon, they bought a GPS system, very expensive. And then later on, somebody bought a home security system, also very expensive. So it's been a good day around here because we get a little piece of that because they used our link. So if you go to Amazon through our link and then you buy anything on Amazon, after you do that, it gives us a little percentage of it because we sent you to Amazon. Basically, it's a commercial for Amazon, right? So they pay us for that. So we appreciate that, everybody that's been doing that. Some of you crazy people have even been... I just can't interrupt that. That's like 80s greatness, right? Some of you crazy people have even been bookmarking one of our links to Amazon down below or something. And then whenever you buy something, you just always go to Amazon with that link. So thank you to everybody that's been doing that. If you want to help our channel, you can do something like that. We don't want you to send us any money or anything. We don't want you to go buy things you normally wouldn't buy. You know, we don't want to cost anybody anything. But hey, if they want to give us some of Jeff Bezos' money, that's fine with me, right? So leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. You can support our channel that way if you would like. And make sure to check out My Brother Donnie. If you don't know about that, we have a channel here on YouTube ran by my brother, literally my brother Donnie. And if you like watching us work on these cool old arcade games, then you'd probably like watching us work on old buildings. We have a couple small buildings. Well, one of them's kind of big, but we have a couple buildings that we bought in a town near here in the downtown area that we're trying to fix up to help revitalize downtown. So he's crazier than I am. But we have a lot of fun over there. So go check that out, the My Brother Donnie channel. All right, enough of all that. Let's try it. What do you think? Is it going to do anything? Is it going to coin up? That would be the first question. Can we coin it up? We can't coin it up. You got to be kidding me. After that kind of a sell, we can't coin it up. I wonder if there's a button. Hello, credit button. Are you in there? I wonder if it's because I have the dip switches set really weird. What do you think? Could it be that? Stuff like that's simple, people. That won't be a problem if that's a thing. Well, hell. Let's do this. Let's go back into test mode and see if the coin switches work. Game over. Yeah. Okay, so it's doing that because I'm hitting the coin switch. So why isn't the game starting? I think it may be because of the dip switches. I might, since I've been moving the thing around on the table, I may have moved the dip switches into a weird order or something, okay? So let me go look in the manual and make sure I've got those set right. So if the switches are supposed to be like the first 3 are on and the next 3 are off to be 1 coin, 1 credit, which is what it says, but you've got it 4 on and 2 off, it may set it to something that it can't understand. So let me go check that, and hopefully that'll be it. Okay, so I set them, basically you want that one dip switch, everything off, but I put the first 3 on, which actually sets it on free play. So it says free play in the center. Tomorrow, whenever we work on the cabinet some more and rebuild the monitor and everything, I'll check out the wiring to the coin, the service switch that adds credits. It's not in there, so I think maybe there might be some kind of, maybe that broke or something. Now free play, it may just start. Yeah. Okay, here we go. We're qualifying, people. Oh, they got me. I'm not sure if the noise, the engine sound is right, but I think it is. Good driving. You qualified for the race. Look at that. That's how you get that pole position, people. Whoa. Stay on the grass. Oh, I clipped them. Damn Sunday drivers. Nothing feels better than playing one you just fixed. Alright folks, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Whoa. And we will see you on the next video. Alright folks, so my battery died on my camera last night, but it was a good place to end. It looked like I had just finished the race when it died. So I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. Leave your comments down below. And I guess I'm going to start trying to fix pole positions when I get them in. I'm excited about that. That'd be so cool. We've turned down a ton of them over the years, and they pop up all the time because they made like... I honestly think they made over 100,000 of them. So there were a bunch of them. So hopefully we'll get some more in, and we'll be able to feel a little more confident working on them. So I hope you enjoyed the video. We will see you on the next one.